often you see in your sheet music those little signs in front of the notes. They are called accidentals, and today I'm going to show you what they are and how you need to use them. So I'm going to show you now today the 3 most common ones, okay? So let's go over them, okay? So the first one looks like this and is called sharp, okay? So sharp. The second one looks like this and is called flat, okay? And then there's the third one. This one is called the natural, okay? Natural. Okay, so what do they do? So, the sharp, here's an example. So, for example, if you have a G, okay, you play a G. Perfect, and now there is this sharp in front of the G, okay? You can see it here. This is the sharp now. So what do? Now, if there is a sharp in front of the note, then you need to play the next black note right next to your note, okay? So you go up, okay? So the G sharp is now higher than the G. We have a G, and then we have the G sharp. So every time you see now a note with sharp, that means that this note is played half a step above the original note, okay? So this next example shows us how the flat works, okay? So here this would be a B now, and here we have a B flat. Now that means exactly the opposite of the sharp. So if we play a B, now you go down to the next black key, okay? So now every time you see a flat in front of a note, this means you should play the note 1/2 step below the original notes, okay? So on the piano, it would be on the left, okay? And then we have the natural, okay? So here, for example, we have a G sharp, okay? That's a G sharp. And then there are some other notes. And at the end, there you can see the natural sign. Now this means this cancels all the sharps and flats before. So that means you do not longer play a G sharp here, you play a G here. Okay. Because another important thing to note here is that if there is a sharp or a flat in a measure or a bar, a measure is, this is a measure, okay, or also called a bar. And then there is the next one here on the right, okay? So if there is a sharp or a flat in a measure, then this sharp stays for the whole measure, okay? So in this example, we have a G sharp right at the beginning, G sharp. Now the next G here, you also have to play a G sharp. I know that's very tricky if you're just a beginner, but here you also have to play a G sharp. If it's easier for you, you can also just write the sharp in front of the G. Okay. And also the next G here, this one here, now it's purple, you also have to play a G sharp here. So this is also a G sharp, okay? And also the last G in this bar is also a G sharp, okay? So the sharp at the beginning tells you to play this whole bar only G sharps, okay? Now, if we go to the next example, here we also have a sharp at the beginning. So now you know already, okay, the next G is also a G sharp. And also the next G is a G sharp. And also the next G is a G sharp. Okay, because it stays the whole measure. Now, important, there is the next measure now. That's not the same measure anymore. That's why now this G here is now a G and not a G sharp, okay? And also the next G is a G, okay? So let's do one more example here. Here we also have a G sharp at the beginning. Then we also have a G sharp. And then there's the natural sign, which means it cancels all the sharps before. So now here you play a G. Now, tricky question. Now the last G here, do you play a G sharp or a G? Let me tell you, this one, the last G, is also a G, okay, because of the natural sign. If there's somewhere a natural sign in this measure, that means after that natural sign, all the Gs are Gs and no G sharps anymore, okay? So again, the sharp raises the note by 1/2 step and the flat lowers the note by 1/2 step, okay? And the natural cancels the effect of another accidental. So then there is something called key signature. Okay, what is a key signature? If you have a music piece, often you see something like this. There is a sharp next to the grand staff, or also maybe you have here 2 Bs, or maybe you have 2 sharps, 3 sharps, or even 6 Bs maybe, okay? So what does that mean? That means that the composer wants you to play this entire music piece, one specific note, or let's say 2, with this sharp or with this flat, okay? So now, how do you know which note you have to play, the sharp or the flat? Now there are 2 options, okay? First one, now if you see now at the beginning, let's say a sharp here, okay? By the way, if there's a sharp in your right hand, next to the grand staff, there's also one in your left hand, okay? It's not possible that with the right hand you have to play different sharps than with your left hand. Key signature always means right and left hand have the same accidentals, okay? So, okay, let's assume we have now the sharp here. Now, how do you know where you have to put this sharp? Okay, you need to look into that square. Where is this square? And this one here is on that line here. And that line, that's the F. So now you know, okay, with all the Fs in this music piece, I have to play a F sharp instead of the F, okay? Or you can also look in the left hand. That's the same. Look, where's the square? Okay, it's on that line here. That means that's also an F. All the Fs get a F sharp, okay, in this entire music piece. Now, if it's too difficult for you to remember, at the beginning it's quite tricky, then just mark all the Fs, put a sharp in front. So that's no problem. Maybe you have a melody like this, da-da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-dum. Let's say you have something like this, or whatever. It doesn't matter. Okay, let's say you have something like this. Then just put a sharp in front of all the Fs you can find in your music piece. And that way you always remember, here I have to play the F sharp. Okay, and of course you can also do that for the left hand. Maybe you do not only have 1 sharp, but let's say 2 or even 3 Bs. Then you do the exact same thing and you see, okay, where is this B, on which line or on which space is this one, okay? You look for that one here. You see, okay, this one is on that line. The next one is here. And the last one is here. And this is a B, this is an E, and this is an A. So you know, okay, all my Bs, all my Es, all my As, they get a B. They get a flat in front of the note, okay? So you always have to play the B flat, the E flat, and the A flat. Okay? Of course, also for the left hand. Here you know the notes are here. And you know, okay, that's a B, that's an E, and that's an A. Okay? So that's the first option, okay? Now the second method, how you know which flats or sharps you have to play, there's always a specific order. for the sharps and also for the flats. So, and this exact order is this one here. So the sharps always start with the F sharp. That one is the F sharp. The next one, that's a C sharp. The third one is the G sharp. Then there's the D sharp. Then there is the A sharp, E sharp, whoops, and B sharp. Okay, it's always this exact order. So you know, if you have, let's say, 3 sharps, then you know there are F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. It cannot be D sharp, A sharp, and F sharp. Not possible. If you have 3, there are always F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. If you have 4, then you have, in addition, the D sharp, okay? And also with the flats, there's also a specific order. And you always start with the B flat, then there's the E flat, then you have the A flat, the D flat, the G flat, C flat, and the end is the F flat, okay? So again here, if you have only 1 flat, then it's the B flat, okay? It cannot be the D flat. Not possible, okay? So that was a little introduction to the accidentials. That was just a small part of my full beginner course. And if you want the full beginner course, the link is in the description. And of course, if you have any struggles, if you have any questions, drop a comment below.